Yep.
And to think that it suddenly will become some kind of a human or an artificial general intelligence with emotions, etc., frankly, that's not happening, at least for the next 10, perhaps not even 20, 25 years. I don't think we have an artificial general
That's
intelligence
not that
for that.
far away, Alok. 2025 is not that far away for our
Yeah, but
grandkids.
at least to me, it's not happening. So I think I would concur with Alan Turing's prediction that such child machines in real terms are not going to be present till at least 2050.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to Bold Conscious Connections. My name is Raju Panjwani, and I'm just thrilled to have you here. So this channel is dedicated to exploring the journeys of visionary leaders, entrepreneurs, who really dare to follow their dreams, their passions, and create really impactful businesses. So if you're looking to become an entrepreneur or otherwise seeking inspiration to elevate your career, well, you're in the right place, my friend. Let me say, why do I do this? It's because, like you, I had a career over 25 years, and at some point, my desire to follow my own path just took over, and I quit my job about 20 years ago now. So on this channel, what I do is we delve into strategies, mindsets, stories behind the success of those that have done this before, like I have. So what I want you to do is hit the subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and join us on this exciting journey towards living boldly and consciously. Well, today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome my friend Dr. Alok Aggarwal, whom I've known for about 20 years, I think, or more. Alok, for those of you listening, I just want you to know who this man is. He spent 15 years at IBM's Watson Research Center in New York, working on groundbreaking AI projects. Yes, AI was a thing many, many decades ago. And then he also launched IBM's research labs in India. And any of this, by the way, if it's you can look at the show notes and you'll see all his background. So I won't bore you with that. But I want the audience here is largely people who want to become entrepreneurs, Alok. So I know that instead of staying in corporate life, you then took that bold leap to entrepreneurship when you founded and co-founded ValueServe, which is where I met you. ValueServe became a global leader in knowledge process outsourcing. And subsequent to that, he has launched another business called Scry AI, SCRY AI, where he focuses on AI-driven solutions that really enhance business decisions. And all of that is, by the way, captured in his new book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Alok explores how technology is reshaping the world. We all hear about that. But really, we go deep diving into not only his corporate to entrepreneurship journey, but also his reflections on AI, how it's impacting us, and his personal insights and what has changed and gained along the way for him. Welcome to the Bold Conscious Connections show, Alok.
Thank you so much, Raju. And it's great to be with you after, as you said, 2 decades.
Yeah, it's really been quite a journey, and gotten to know your family. You're grown up, your kids are all grown up now. And so he's a father of 2, boy and girl, and we won't get into all the detail about that. But, I often ask Alok, my guests, who they are rather than what they've been doing. So who is Alok?
I don't know. I guess that's a hard question to ask, especially if you ask from a Hindu philosophy perspective, who is Alok? I really can't answer that. I can only say that there is something passionate that I try to follow. Every 5 years, things have changed for me. So I don't ask when I interview people, what will you do in 5 years? Because every time I thought I knew what I would do in 5 years pretty much changed. It's very hard to answer your question, who is Alok? At least I don't know myself. I don't think it's easy to know yourself or to others to a great extent. And I'm not being philosophical. I'm just being honest.
No, that's okay. And again, it's as many guests as I've had, like almost 100 now in my weekly podcasts. Each of the answers is different by each guest. And that's what makes us unique. So yep. I'm okay. There's no right or wrong answer here. So, jumping into the pivotal turning points, because a lot of this conversation is about turning, as I said, corporate entrepreneurs or executives becoming entrepreneurs. There's always a story behind it. There's always a turning point. So I just like you to highlight 1 or 2 that got you to leave your, great IBM job. I mean, obviously you're an intellectual and your PhD, you've done incredible complicated things in your life. So what about just jumping into ValueServe, founding this company after being, so immersed into computers and technology and all of the things that IBM does or did?
So I would consider myself as an accidental entrepreneur. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. When I graduated with a PhD in AI in theory of computer vision in 1984 from
Could you
Johns
speak up a
Hopkins.
little bit, Alok? Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so AI was a thing back then. You could actually do something in AI.
Yeah, so AI started effectively in 1950 with one of the mathematicians at that time, Alan Turing, asking a question:
Right.
can computers imitate humans? And he posed an interesting challenge. If computer is in one room, man is sitting in another room, and a judge in the third room, can computer fool the judge into believing it's human? And
Mm.
effectively, that in 1950, that's where AI effectively started. In 1952, BBC had a very interesting interview with Alan Turing, who was quite well known by that time because he had
Yes.
helped the Allies win part of the war, Second World War, because he broke the cryptographic codes from Germany. They asked him, "So when do you think such machines can be created?" And he said, "Not in 100 years." That's 1952. And then the next question was, "How would you create such machines?" And he said, "You'll have to train them as you train our children." And we often forget that that is how most of our AI systems are actually trained today. That's how they were being trained in 1970s, 80s, and as computers became faster and cheaper, it became more and more feasible to train them like humans, make them more complicated or more complex, having more computing power, and train them like humans.
Hmm.
So AI then formally was given, the name was given by John McCarthy in 1956, and they had the first conference in Dartmouth. And the first hype cycle in AI was also created in 1956 with that conference, continued until 1973 when it went bust. So then the second hype cycle started in 1980, which went bust in 1989. And I believe we are in the throes of the third hype cycle.
Wow, fascinating. So, little do we know about how all these things. I mean, today everybody talks about AI within a year and a half. It's as if it's something new at your fingertips. But let's talk about your book because that's current and that's very relevant. And I've been, you know, going through the sort of early parts of each of the chapters as you shared. So, the fourth industrial revolution. First, what was the impetus for writing this book? Number one, and what exactly are you trying to say that's not already been said by people, particularly if it's that old in terms of the whole notion of creating AI? So what is it that was the reason for you wanted to still write this, and who is it for, and then why should people now read other books on AI?
It's so very important point is that I think there was a sci-fi writer in 1950s, Arthur C. Clarke. He had three laws, and his third law was
Arthur
Arthur C. Clarke.
Arthur
And
C. Clarke.
he had three laws. And one of the laws, a third law was any scientifically advanced technology is considered magic by humans.
Hmm.
AI is scientifically advanced right now. We don't understand, even the researchers don't understand machine learning algorithms. They can't explain them, they can't easily interpret them. So forget about an average human. So it's
Yeah.
very, very much like magic to them. Many people consider it's godlike, other things that it's a devil, and very few actually realize what it can do and what it cannot. So, one of the main reasons for writing the book was about AI as what it can do and what it cannot do today, and what we can expect it to do in 10 years from now. Nothing more than that. I mean, it goes from 1950 to 2050, partly to remind people what has happened in the past. But I only spend about two chapters, chapter two and three, in doing so as to what has happened in the past, and then
Mhm.
quickly come into the present. Because the more interesting part is what is happening in the present and what will happen in the near future, namely next 7 to 10 years. I mean, about, for example, a lot of people think there will be job losses immediately. It's not going to, it'll happen, it's not going to happen immediately. So the related thing happens with respect to AI and data science is what has happened in the past with related to electricity and motors, or with related to water, steam, and steam engines, more related to broadband and wireless communication and CPUs. And that's why the fourth industrial revolution comes into picture. That many of these things, there are characteristics of each industrial revolution, and we're going through a fourth industrial revolution where clearly data science and AI are the focal points. But then there are many other inventions happening. Robotics is going to grow rapidly.
Yeah.
Metaverse by augmented reality, virtual reality will take off once 6G, once the next level of bandwidth is available, and so on. So I wanted to bring all of those together and show how AI is already being used and will be used in these areas as time goes by. And all of these inventions will get commingled and will get even better by
Hmm.
using data science and AI. Just like motors, electric motors have improved so many other areas, and so has electricity, which goes into electric motors.
So what's intriguing to me as I hear that, Alok, is that it took 60, 70 years to I mean, it's been going on for that long, since Alan Turing's day. And then now, as we know, there are many other things, including bandwidth expansion and, speeds of, communication. Is there therefore a not so much a concern, but the fact that it will be so accelerated, what's going to come is going to be so much faster than what has taken 70 years. Is that
Yeah,
fair to
yeah,
say? And then,
absolutely. And we have seen that in the first three revolutions also. For example, if you look at the steam engine, it basically, the earlier part of steam engine was created in 1700s. And it was only in 1840 that the steam engine became really relevant in the commercial world. So
so just to be
typically,
sure, sorry to interrupt, but the three previous revolutions were what? The steam engine?
the first one, the steam engine, the second one was the electricity and electric motors, and the third one was electronic communication and CPUs. I mean, we
Okay,
have central processing units in our smartphones, in our washers,
sure.
dryers, pretty
Yeah,
much anything that you can think of.
correct. Okay,
So
sorry.
the first one again was steam was the infrastructure, steam engine was the
Sure.
thing which made things move.
Got it.
Electricity was the infrastructure, electric motors were the things which were moving things, which got embedded in various things. Third one, the infrastructure was that of wireless and wireline communication, wireless phones, wireline broadband, and so on. And CPUs or central processing units went into smartphones and all that. So those are the
Got it.
three. And
Yeah.
all of these, if we look at it, typically took anywhere from 4 to 8 decades, sometimes even longer, to get into the commercial from the scientific version of it. So the scientific part of AI began to happen in 1956 and thereabouts. And
Mhm.
it was only in 2010, 2012 that we really began to, in a very large manner, I would say, not bits and pieces here or there, that we were already seeing in 1990s, that began to commercialize very well. And the commercialization will now grow exponentially, that's for sure.
Till we're ready for the next something. So in your book, you address this ethical dilemma and the concerns, right, around AI, because that's what everybody talks about. Once it's in the hands of the consumer, oh my God, what's going to happen? You mentioned job loss, etc. From biases in data to privacy issues and power of AI to reshape, etc. You talk about that in the book. So working on the forefront of AI must be really, confronting these issues at a personal level as well, right? So for
Yeah,
you, so was there a
absolutely.
particular project or dilemma that forced you to stop and consider or reconsider your direction?
To a certain extent, I mean, fortunately, the products we are creating, AI products, do not go into these things. We have kept away from it. This dilemma particularly occurs when you use AI for human beings. For example, suppose you create an AI system which would segregate good resumes from bad resumes. And that is
Hmm.
where bias comes into picture. We really, even as humans, we are not able to interview people well. We are not able to figure out on day one
Sure.
when we interview whether the person will do well or not. AI certainly, that child, the machine child or child machine, as Alan Turing put it, that we have trained is definitely not capable of doing. So we have tried to keep away from building AI systems which directly deal with humans in a very direct manner. And another very good example is education. It's fairly easy to say, oh, AI can tell you as to what a person or what a child would do at the age of 15, given that you have all the information about the child
Sure.
at the age of 9. But between 9 and 15, would be so many incidents that would have taken place. I
Right.
mean, death in the family, somebody passed away, somebody, a new, I mean, brother or sister was born. I mean, that you really cannot say these things because many new variables got added. So The same is true about criminal justice system. It's not easy to say just because somebody committed two petty crimes is going to commit a third crime.
Yeah.
Because the two petty crimes might have been committed when the person had no money, he or she was really hungry, and went into a grocery store to pick up a few bananas or whatever. Doesn't really mean that, I mean, the person may hit a lottery, $1 million lottery, and may change completely after.
I was intrigued when you say, we don't build. So then who's
We
we?
meaning this Scry AI. Our company does not. I mean,
Okay.
so we have kept away. The company has kept away from building AI products and AI solutions, which directly affect humans. I would say from that perspective.
Okay, so I want you to talk about Scry, what Scry does. But before we do, I'm an author, writer. I'm part of the local writers group here, and it's just fascinating to see what they do. And I was asked to come out with another colleague of mine to present what AI does for writers because they're so scared. And we actually did a demo for them. Like we said, go ahead, ask this question of ChatGPT or whatever at the time. And they said, could you please write a poem in an Ernest Hemingway style around such and such subject? And just spits out all of this stuff because in the OpenAI research, it's clear that a lot of literature has been already fed into this whole large language model. And we had tears in eyes of these poets that how can this thing write like Ernest Hemingway? Well, you just asked it to write about this landscape and whatever in the sky, and it has it all built in. So what are we going to do? You continue to do what you continue to do is what we said. And it was like, it didn't go over too well. So it really is impactful to our lives. Writing, people saying, okay, the publishers say, we'll not publish your book if you have used AI at all. Like, what does that mean? I mean, we use Google today. We use, calculators, and used to say, don't take the calculator in your exam. But now it's all good.
Yeah.
What's wrong with using what's available?
Absolutely nothing. And I mean, I bring it out very, very clearly in the book that look, it's a tool. We can use it for better, we can use it for worse. It's
Yes.
no different than nuclear energy. You can use it for better of humankind, you can use it for worse. As far as the writers are concerned, yes, at some level, you have some worry that, oh, it can write so well. But eventually, if you look at a large language model, an AI system, it's trained on about 400 million pages to a billion pages worth of data, mainly in English and mainly textual. So it's
Mainly in
not only,
English and text.
and mainly textual in nature, meaning not tabular, not graphs and charts. I mean, there would
Yes.
be some of those, but not too
Yes.
many of those. Right? So obviously, I mean, think of a person, a child being, forget about 400 million pages. Think of a child just reading 4 million pages. The child will obviously become extremely good at it. So to
Yes.
say that, look, now we are certainly worried about this child because he's going to take our job away, or what will we do? Yes, you will, as you rightly said, you'll continue to do what you do, but you'll do it in a much more creative manner. You will say to the child, let's work together. You improve on me and I'll improve on you, and you get to a higher level. So I don't think whether it's writers, poets, medical doctors, anything is going away. It's just that we'll figure out ways of making it work better for ourselves and for the humanity. That's happened in all industrial revolutions, and that will continue to happen here. And to think that it suddenly will become some kind of a human or an artificial general intelligence with emotions, etc., frankly, that's not happening, at least for the next 10, perhaps not even 20, 25 years. I don't think we have an artificial general intelligence.
That's not that far away, Alok. 25 years not that far away for our
Yeah, but
grandkids.
at least to me, it's not happening. So I think I would concur with Alan Turing's prediction that such child machines in real terms are not going to be present till at least 2050.
So I don't want to leave that subject without the human aspect of it, because if Deepak Chopra and Tony Robbins and all these guys are replicating themselves in their voices and generative AI and leaving behind, after they die, their legacy, is there a downside to anybody just saying, okay, well, I can live forever? I mean, you're not there anymore, but your work lives on. So is it no different than it lives on where it was, and now you just have a voice attached to it?
Yeah, absolutely. What's wrong with that? I mean, if you want to, I mean, now lived on in your books, so you had a legacy in your books. Now you have a legacy with respect to your voice. and may perhaps even your digital avatar with your eyes blinking the way you blink your eyes and your
Yeah.
facial expressions being the same. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, why are we getting so concerned? Every particular revolution has seen some kind of a massive change. That's why they were called revolutions. They would
I love
appear.
it. So I'm biased, but hey,
So
I
am I.
just want our audience not to give it the worry energy.
And particularly the worry about job losses. I actually cover that in chapter 16. And
Yeah,
my view is very strongly that yes, job losses will occur, but they're not going to occur anytime soon. These things take time because there is friction in the society. People
sure,
don't change things in a business domain that easily because they've already invested in other areas. They
sure.
don't want to take risks and so on. So we discuss a lot about previous revolutions and previous technologies and how much time and what are the reasons why technology takes time to take on. If
Particularly
you
in
look at
corporates and slow-moving
particularly in
institutions.
business, but
Yeah.
and organizations and the
Yeah.
government, and I mean,
Okay.
it actually brings to fore. You talked about your ValueServe. We started knowledge process outsourcing from India. So we
Mhm.
were hiring MBAs and chartered accountants or certified accountants in India to provide services to the US. The idea being, look, it's fairly useful to you because we can provide you the same kind or a similar kind of person who can speak English well, who can do all the math, the financial engineering, and will cost you one fourth of the price. And
Right.
we were ourselves get carried away because we said, look, all the businesses want to save money, so they will easily move it to
Mhm.
India with this. I myself wrote papers saying that by we are in 2004 and by 2013 we would have such a large KPO industry in India, but it never materialized to that level. It was only one fourth, and the reason is that people take time and businesses take time. If you ain't broke, don't fix it. Why
Yeah.
do you want to put more capital investment and so on?
Yeah.
So if you look at it today, hardly any jobs have been lost due to AI. And this is not going to happen anytime soon. Yes, it will happen in 20, 30 years. Absolutely. But in 20, 30 years, there are other things that will happen to human society also. One of them is that the number of humans, the human population will become stable, may begin to even decline. So we would not have enough working population to take care of the aged population.
Sure.
So we may be begging AI and robots to help us actually at that
Well,
point.
Elon Musk may not agree with you, but okay.
I know many people won't agree, and I discussed that in the book too.
Okay.
I said
So,
there are
so I wanted
optimists
to.
and there are pessimists, and so it all depends on which side of the story you are. And the pessimist
Okay.
would create some kind of a basic universal basic income because people will lose jobs.
Well, I think the overwhelming syndrome in people is fear, right? So we all get afraid. The first new thing comes in and they go, oh my God, it's going to do something to me personally. And none of this is personal, but it's just,
And it would do something, but over time, and it is none
and
of
it's
it is
also
personal.
short term. When you figure this out, then you'll also figure out, as a creative human will, figure
That's
out ways to overcome and do something different, pivot, whatever it may be, right? Because we're just so caught up in what we know intellectually and then we don't apply it. Which brings me to Scry. So just tell the audience in a nutshell what Scry really does.
So first of all, scry is an English word. You can use it in Scrabble, convert cry to scry. It means crystal ball gazing or fortune telling. Nostradamus is considered the biggest scryer. Since we are doing predictive analytics, in a sense, we are predicting the future,
Yeah.
predicting whether an excavator will die, predicting whether a railroad train will work well, predicting whether a company will return the money back, and so on and so forth. So that's
Yeah.
why. And we're producing actually products relating in banking and finance related to predict such events or various events. Also, we have products in related to sensors to predict whether the quality of water coming out of a water plant is polluted, whether the quality is good, and so on. So we have
Mhm.
several products which basically are in the prediction domain. We have a couple of products which are
These are
in search.
physical products or physical
These are all software products. Yeah, we don't
software
have
products?
any robots. See, these are
Okay,
all software products. Yeah.
I see. So it's embedded technology in perhaps other hardware.
Either embedded technology or running on a set of computers in that way.
I see. And so, who are your typical customers or clients who you
So
provide this?
banks are our largest clients. Then we have clients in the Middle East, in smart cities, and people who are working with sensors. want to figure out whether something will fall apart or something is not going right.
Beautiful. Well, I wish you really success in that, as you make something out of nothing, as we
We'll
do.
see. I mean, this is the fun being an entrepreneur. You never know. Or being a researcher, you never know. Both are
Well,
very similar in that respect.
you're putting it together really well, Alok. So I admire you for that, as you know. So one thing I want to touch on in your book, you talk about the describing data, which a lot of us ignore, as the new oil. But you also acknowledge that it's complex and the biases it can sort of, reveal. So working with data so closely, has it, I imagine there are times when it has some unexpected truth for you personally otherwise. How do you handle ethical dilemmas for you? And if that comes
Yeah.
up in your
Well,
applications?
again, we are trying to, at least trying, I'm not saying we always succeed, trying to remain away from all the ethical dilemmas. Because
Mm.
a lot of what AI and data science is bringing to us, at least in research and in entrepreneurship, being startup companies and so on, is it is a human mirror. We have to look at how biased are we? How much we talk about ethical AI. We should first talk about ethical humans. What really is being ethical?
Ethical.
That from society to society changes
Yes.
from time to time. What was very ethical maybe 5 generations ago or 400 years ago may be completely unethical at this point of time. And it keeps bringing up those kind of questions repeatedly. Now, just like
It does. In terms of the AI.
yeah, it does. Because is it really, suppose you're creating a system which detects, let's say, breast cancer,
Hmm.
cancerous tissues, or skin cancer,
Yeah.
and you're working in a particular community which is contains 99.99% whites. So no other, I mean, there are no Asians, there are no blacks, no Orientals, and so on.
Hmm.
Now you take that particular data from men and women are there, mainly women, and you train just like you will train a child or a doctor, you train the
Right.
system. Now the system is trained on but on whites. Now you take it out to another community where you have whites and blacks and Orientals and so on. Your system is now completely biased.
Mhm.
So you suddenly begin to question as to what your system, if you hadn't thought about it and you just applied it, you suddenly realize that look, my data was all whites and the whole thing was biased. And then, I mean, this is an explicit bias, so the data collector or the data scientist may realize this. But then there are implicit bias where you don't even realize. You go to, let's say, zip code or a community which is fairly rich. Now, I mean, that again creates a bias as to
Sure.
which are the groups which are rich, potentially not black or Latinos, but Asians and whites and Jews and so on. So these bring out questions that we often don't think when we are ourselves doing this
Mm.
research many times. So many times I think it brings out very strongly ethical questions about data is really who owns data. I mean, you can say data is like oil, and to a certain extent, yes, like electricity, data fuels AI. So you can say data is like
Sure.
electricity or oil. But then data, who owns data is not clear because you can give negative ownership or negative aspects of data. So
Right.
here was a very interesting episode that occurred on a Christmas day in Belgium. A particular, they had a lot of snow overnight. So the city had created in a park, they had created a 5 feet wide walkway so that people can walk and enjoy
Mm.
the snow. So a man is walking with his 5 year or 6 year old daughter, and they're walking through. A cyclist comes by, and he doesn't want to go on the snow, so he tries to skirt them, take them over, but he ends up kneeing the daughter. So she
Mm.
goes up flying in the air, but being a daughter, she lands up. Nothing really terrible happens to her. The man actually, he has been videotaping the daughter, so he
Oh,
videotapes the whole thing.
wow.
So he puts it on the net. The cyclist sues him that you have, in the whole process, you have destroyed my image. So, and the judge says, yes, you have destroyed his image. Yeah, I mean, he cannot go around now as he was
Wow.
going around because people are saying,
Wow.
you're a terrible person. You need this daughter.
Mm.
So, one could argue that, look, the person was videotaping. The videotape, the data belongs to him. He should be allowed to do whatever he feels like. But
Yeah, what a conflict. Jeez.
yeah, so these kind of issues are now coming to the fore, in my view, in much stronger manner, and we are trying to remain away from them as much as possible, trying to
Yeah.
build products which don't necessarily go into such aspects.
Well, all of this kind of stuff, the video on the phones, et cetera, has been obviously the reason for fake news and all these different things that people have come up with in the last 10, 15 years. So yeah, it can be positive or negative, as you
Yeah,
say.
and may the fake news and all that, people scamming each other or AI scamming will become much worse.
Yeah. So I cannot leave you without a couple of, I have a rapid fire very quickly, but bold and conscious are the words that I live by. Bold is clearly you're very bold and you've done all these things, with belief in your heart. But I always wonder, is there a balance between, let's say, what you believe your ambition is to leave the world with, and then your own deeper purpose, or are they the same?
That's a hard one. I think more or less they're the same. I don't consider myself bored. I consider myself passionate and somebody who wants to achieve the passion. Initially, the passion was doing research. It was all theoretical research in computer science, and then passion became, because of various reasons, go into entrepreneurship and start companies. And most of the time, it was, hey, this is something which I really like to do, and it would help the society. So, in some sense, it's less of being bold, more of trying to follow my passion. And I think,
Great.
to me, it's therefore there is no retirement, because my passion is what I want like to do anyway.
That's great. All those of you guys still listening to this, you better take heed to that advice, passion, ambition. So being a data guy, did you test before you got into entrepreneurship whether this is going to work or not? Or you just go with passion?
Now, just went with passion.
And it'll work out and you may change.
I did not know. I mean, in fact, with the co-founder, we agreed that if it doesn't work out in 5 years, we'll go our different ways. And I mean, with Scry, again, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I mean, what can I do?
Because there was no data that validated that somebody will pay for this?
Yeah, there is no. I think we can do a lot of surveys, we can do a lot of focus groups, but eventually it comes down to your belief that
Sure.
that somebody will pay for it. It's something which is interesting, which there is a return on investment for businesses or for the consumers if you want to go into a B2C business, which I've never been into one. I think it does come down to a strong belief at some point.
But data is important though, right? You cannot ignore
Data
that
is important.
nobody's paying you for a product you create.
That's right. Data is important. It's important to figure out what is the total real market, addressable market, who is going to pay for it. What is often hard in entrepreneurship in startups is to figure out what is the pricing.
Yep.
Because since it's a new product, you don't really know what are people willing to pay for. Price it too low, you're being cheap and you're leaving money on the table. If you price it too high, nobody will pay for it.
Sure.
So that's always a hard thing. And there is always a price discovery in most companies which start new products.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my prospect clients or clients struggle with this. I'm ready to leave. I want to become an entrepreneur, but then how do I validate my product or my idea or my service? Sometimes if it's a new thing like you're doing, it doesn't exist to have any reference points. So what do people like that? What should they resort to? Just go with the passion?
I think they should do, again, they should do surveys. In my view, they should talk to people. They should collect data to the extent that they can and be very objective about it. Because to be an entrepreneur is not to be a gambler, at least in my view. There should be a fair amount of thoughtfulness or rational thinking that goes along with it. But again, there is only so much that a data can give you. So you will have to eventually go with your gut feel and passion.
Well, there you go. That's where I was getting to. Good. So rapid fire quickly so we can bring out some other things that may not have been talked about. Okay. What's the first thought or habit that grounds you when you wake up or start your day?
I think humility. I would like to remain, we all have risen, to the extent we have risen, on shoulders of others, of society, of our parents, of our friends, and so on. So humility is something that I would love to be always grounded on.
Beautiful. I love it. What's a lesson that your family has taught you that you carry around into your work?
That there is nothing like work-life balance. This is the thing which I realized. Unfortunately, thanks to the family, to my wife and kids, that you just have to live with both of them. You're passionate about it, so you try to work, but then you will be pulled into doing other things, which is perfectly fine. You have to be, I mean, to say that work life balance implies you're giving one thing or the other. And the thing is, you unfortunately can't. So the only thing you can give, which is not a good thing to give up, is sleep. And that itself has its own problems, because if you don't sleep enough, then sooner or later you'll have problems, health problems anyway.
Sure. Okay, so what is the bravest decision you've ever made that few people know about?
I think getting married in an arranged marriage manner, because I met her
Oh,
only
I
three
didn't know that
times.
Sangeeta was an arranged marriage with you. Oh, wow.
That's right. So it wasn't forced on me, but I was already in the US. I already had graduated from Hopkins, was working for IBM Research. My mom said, "You should get married." I said, "Yeah, I don't have any girlfriend." She says, "Okay, we'll find some. You're not opposed to it." I said, "I'm not opposed to it, but I do not know how these things go." So we only met three times before we were engaged. So, I
Great. I
mean, so
didn't know
that
that
was
story.
so that was bravest on my part, but then I had cold feet just before the day of the engagement. Frankly, I
Of
had
course.
massive cold feet. And my mom, who had gone to the bazaar to buy a few stuff, she came back because the next day was the engagement ceremony. And she says, "Oh, you look pale." And then she touched my hand and my feet. And he said, "You really have cold feet. Why are you worried?" I said, "I don't know her. It's only three times we've met." And she says, "Why are you afraid? She should be afraid. You are not coming back to India. She's going to the US. She's leaving her parents. What is your problem?"
Oh,
And
wow.
then all that cold feet went away. And so I
Oh,
think
God.
Sangeeta was more brave than me. Let me put it
See, it's
this way.
amazing how stories come out in a rapid fire. That's beautiful. So, is there a daily ritual? Not the same question as before. That balances you in a demanding day, for example.
Yes, I think it has changed over time. One ritual which hasn't changed. I'm an early riser. I mean, from my childhood days, I would say at least from my teenage days, I would wake up quite early, and
Uh-huh.
I would invariably, before we I start anything, I would take a shower, brush my teeth, take a shower. I won't even eat or drink before doing that. I mean, I would say meditate for at least 2 minutes. I mean, frankly, nothing more. So that
Okay,
is one thing which hasn't changed.
that's
A
great.
few things which have changed is that, look, I have no choice, but if I want to be with family, and I should be with family and with friends, then I will have to, again, I will have to take some time off and not look at it as if I'm giving up my work, but I will have to take some time off and spend
Okay,
time. So what I
okay,
gave up was Facebook and all the social media and whole process. So I said, okay, this is something I can live without,
sure.
and probably it's a good.
Okay. Besides your own book, is this your first book, by the way?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Is there another book that has spoken to your career and personal values that resonates with you?
Yeah, it goes back to Hindu culture. I am very fond of Bhagavad Gita, which I don't, I'm not a person who believes in human version of God. So I
Mhm.
don't think that actually that it was written by God or said by God. But I
Yeah.
think it's a book which was written and probably changed over time, because it wasn't even written at that time. There was no
Yes.
paper.
Yes.
3,000, years ago, and there were at least 40 generations which went by when they were speaking to each other from one generation to another. But the writer and the speaker gave, I would say, ultimate wisdom.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, I both consider the writer and the speaker, Krishna and Ved Vyas, as the ultimate practical philosophers.
Totally. Great. Is there a belief about technology or life that you've reconsidered rather recent?
Life, yes. I personally believe, there was a time I used to believe that humans can live for a very, very long time. I never
Mhm.
believed that they can live forever, but for a very long time. I'm gradually beginning to believe that there may be an inbuilt system that we may not be able to live beyond 120 years.
120
Most
years?
120 years. So,
Okay.
we can try our best. We'll obviously try our best, and we should. But there
Yeah.
may be some physical limitations,
Yeah.
and may be related to fundamental laws of physics and biology.
If there was one word to describe what legacy you want to leave, what would that be?
I don't want to leave a legacy. When I'm gone, I'm gone. Frankly, legacy to me only exists when you're alive. I mean, once you're gone, I mean, who cares?
Okay.
Or whoever cares, it's their problem, not mine.
But you leave behind a lot of memories, so I guess in
I
that
leave
sense,
behind a lot of memories.
for them, not
For
you, but them. Yeah. What's a seemingly small choice that you made that ended up having a significant impact on, or outlook, we could, for that matter?
That's a hard one. I don't know whether. I think the small choice was when I actually was graduating from high school. I had a choice to go to engineering or medicine. And I took an exam, IIT joint entrance exam. I got into it. I didn't even, for that day, I didn't even go for the interview because I wasn't sure whether I wanted to be an engineer or not. But then I thought about it and I said, yeah, this is a bird in hand is better than two in the bush, and became an engineer. If I had not gone the next day, I would have become probably, most likely, I don't know. I mean, who
You would
knows?
have become what? Sorry?
A medical doctor. Most
Doctor.
likely a medical doctor.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, we can only judge if we took a fork.
Okay.
Where would the forking?
Okay, so I had a lot of questions. There are many questions I still have. Is there something in particular that you want to leave the audience with? Things that I didn't ask you, perhaps, or anything that you wanted to just say at the end?
Yeah, I think I'd go back to AI, and I would request the audience to think AI as, again, as a tool, and particularly, in my view, as what Alan Turing suggested, that we are trying to train these machines like we train our children. When we think of LLMs, large language models, and we think of prompts, it's very similar to asking a question from a child and then giving a hint to the child in which direction you want the child to be thinking. So rather than getting worried or concerned about AI and the jobs, and clearly the jobs will change, the jobs will go away. We've seen those three revolutions. I think people should more think about how we can use it as a tool. The other thing which I actually worry more, because job loss is not something that worries me about AI. What worries me is loneliness, which is already rampant in the world. And to my surprise and my shock, I thought that loneliness was mainly in the Western world. But India, recent research shows India, 41% of the people consider themselves lonely. And a lot of this has happened because we have gone to social media and we spend so much time on the internet and social media and have forgotten about personal relationships. And AI is only going to make it worse because now you will have robots and you will have chatbots and so on. You can have your lady chatbot or your girlfriend chatbot, boyfriend chatbot. Those are all of concern. And I think that will make it 10 times worse from a loneliness perspective. And people should watch out as to
loneliness, which is all part of the mental illness. All everybody's that. So Alok, then, as I said, there's a zillion other questions I could ask. The audience specifically, my audience tends to be on the cusp of unfulfilled, want to be entrepreneur, unfulfilled, want to be entrepreneur, but they freeze before they do this. Is there any particular advice for them in the context of what you just said?
Very simply, follow your passion. I mean, definitely do research, get your data, but follow your passion, because the biggest worry I always have had, I don't want to have a regret when I'm on my deathbed. And a lot of these people would have that. I mean, they worry, yeah, I was a director. My boss then told me, you're an IBM India research lab. You did such a wonderful job. We'll make you a country manager of IBM India. I said, Dr. Paul Horn, I'm going to probably quit tomorrow rather than a month from now, because we all get caught. I mean, it's very easy to be shackled and to worry about all of the things that you have, a corner office, money, and so on. But then the bigger worry is that if you don't do something which you are really passionate about, you'll have regret for the rest of your life.
So that's why I go to hospice and talk to people who are terminally ill. I go, and 99% of the people are always saying what they didn't do. They don't talk about what they did do. They talk about what they didn't do.
Sad part, because we all have regrets in the in the
That's right.
end. Not all we did well. And
Yeah.
look, I had such a great family and so on.
Yeah.
Most of us are thinking about I wish I just did that.
That's right. I had these great ideas in me and I didn't let it express myself. Anyway, so I have followed your advice for 20 years. I bumble along and I do all these things, Alok,
Yeah.
but thank you for being part of my life and my journey.
And likewise, Raj. Thank you so much.
And in that vein of gratitude, I thank you for being here
Thank
today.
you so much.
And is there anything that you discovered here in this conversation in the last 45 minutes?
Well, one was some of your questions as to what was small thing that changed your life. And I mean, there are many things that changed my life. As I told you, every 5 years, my life got changed. But the small thing probably was the most monumental, being an engineer or a medical doctor.
So how little things that we decide today have an impact in the future.
Yeah.
And this is the work I do. I always say, just take one little action because it could change your life. So
exactly.
Anyway.
And that's why I personally believe that AI will never be able to predict, at least in the next 20, 30 years, how a person will work out, whether a resume is a good resume or not. Because there's so many things that happen with us humans which become variables. And some of those variables are far, far too strong variables to change your life altogether.
Oh, you guys have heard it from the man. Don't live a life of regrets. Okay? Go follow your passion. Thank you again, Alok, and I hope to see you again. I wish you success in the book.
Thank you.
And for the book.
Thanks. And thank you so much. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend, for tuning in to another episode of Bold Conscious Connections. If you really enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up, please, and subscribe for more inspiring stories and insights from top entrepreneurs and leaders. So that button is right below here. And also hit the notification bell, that thing next to subscribe, so you'll never miss another episode and any of our latest content that I post, usually every week. I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions, so drop them in the comments below. I would really love to hear more about what I'm doing and maybe bring you something that's more suitable for what you like and other things that you might want to learn about. So join our vibrant community of individuals who are out there making a difference. Okay? Stay tuned for more amazing conversation that will inspire and empower you. And until next time, remember, live boldly and consciously, my friend.